Alright, here we go again for part 3. First album I have is Drake, Thank Me Later. This is his first album. This is probably before he got way too popular, and I definitely didn't like his stuff after next few albums. But this is probably one of his best works. My recommended track would probably be Over, or what was the other one? There was another one. Up All Night. There we go. And then probably my favorite album by Drake, Take Care. And I love that album art. My recommended track for that one would probably be Headlines or Shot For Me. Next one I got is the last one I really cared about before I didn't care for him much after. Nothing Was the Same. Wasn't as great as as his first two albums, but it was still a good listen. My track would probably be All Me, and I had the deluxe. So next one I have is another rapper, Eminem. Many I'm sure have heard of this guy. He's pretty much everywhere. So yeah. My recommended track on this album is probably either Guilty Conscience or 97 Bonnie and Clyde. Next one I have is Recovery, which I actually like this cover more than the original. My recommended track for this album is probably 25 to Life. And then we get to the Marshall Mathers LP2. There we go, I can talk now. I definitely recommend Bad Guy, which is the first track. I can't talk anymore. Which is a sequel to Stan, which is one of his biggest hits. Now we get into my Evanescence collection. We got Fallen, which they're supposed to be releasing a new album coming out soon. Hope to get my hands on that. My recommended track would probably be Imaginary. Probably my favorite because I grew up on it. The Open Door. My recommended track is probably either Lithium or Lacrimosa, which is funny because they both start with an L, but still a great album. And then we get to Self-Titled, which I'd recommend Sick or The Change. And then we get to Falling in Reverse with Just Like You, which is probably my favorite album by them. Track I'd recommend is probably either Chemical Prisoner or Wait and See, which they said they weren't going to do any rapping, but I mean, it's still good rap when he did it. So. And then we have their new album, Coming Home. Track I'd recommend is probably... Try to remember the track listing because it's not on the back. Broken or Superhero, one of those two. Next one I have is Fall Out Boy from Under the Cork Tree. Definitely a lot better than their new stuff. Oh my lord. My recommended track would probably be Sugar We're Going Down, just because, I mean, everyone knows that one. So. And then we have Infinity on High, which is probably my favorite album by them. Thanks for the Memories. It's probably my recommended track, or I would definitely recommend Thriller, which has a opening verse, I think, by Jay-Z. And then this one I wasn't really a big fan of. Fall Out Boy, Save Rock and Roll. It was an okay album. I'm not a big fan of it, so I don't really have a track to recommend. Next one I have is Five Finger Death Punch, The Way of the Fist. I heard some YouTubers say that if you have one album, you basically have them all. Well, you're kind of right, because most of their stuff is pretty repetitive, so yeah, definitely, I guess, got them all then. My recommended track is probably The Bleeding. And we have my third favorite album of all time, which would be Fleetwood Mac, Rumors. Definitely a classic rock album with soft rock influences, maybe some pop. My recommended track is probably Never Going Back Again, which is only like 2.25 minutes, but it's still a great song musically and lyrically. The next one I have is Flyleaf, self-titled, which comes with a bonus disc, which has some acoustic performances and music videos. So this one's probably their best album. And then we have the last one before their lead singer Lacey Sturm left, New Horizons. I haven't really heard much of this album, but I guess title track is all I've heard. So if you want to get in this album, probably listen to that one. Next one I have is Foo Fighters, Wasting Light. Foo Fighters have a new album coming out soon. I am excited for that album to come out. My recommended track for this album is probably Rope or Walk. And then we have Sonic Highways, which I love the album art, but the album's okay. It's not as great as not as great as Wasting Light, but it's still a good album. I'd recommend Outside, which had a guitar solo by the Eagles' Joe Walsh. Next one I have is another band that's supposed to be releasing a new album this year. That's Fozzy, Do You Want to Start a War, which I came with a bandana, but I don't know where that went. So, yeah, I'm ready for Judas to come out too. Judas, the song, is pretty catchy, so it's been like an earworm to me, so... But I'm excited for it. My recommended track would probably be One Crazed Anarchist. And then we have The Fray with their self-titled album, which is probably their best work. I would recommend Never Say Never. And then we have Scars and Stories. I usually confuse this one with Theory of a Dead Man, Scars and Souvenirs, which, spoiler alert, you'll see soon. But I'd recommend Heartbeat, which is the opening track. Then I got the Furious 7 soundtrack. I think the only reason I really got this was because See You Again's on this one, so. And plus, I'm not a big fan of most of the hip-hop. So, I mean, it's still okay. It has its moments. So. Next album I have is Godsmack, Awake. Some 2000s new metal. But I would recommend Awake, the title track. And then we got my favorite album of 2016, Gojira, Magma. This is such a great album. It's very emotional too, because the guitarist and the drummer, they're both brothers, lost their mom, so this album was pretty much written around that time. My recommended track is definitely Lowlands. And then we have an album that never came in close place for that. Good Charlotte, Youth Authority. I only got it at Hot Topic because it was on sale. Same old shtick. Next album I have is Green Day, Dookie. Classic 90s pop punk. I would recommend Longview. And then we got Insomniac, which is probably my favorite. And this one has, what was it called? Brain Stew. There we go. Then we have Nimrod. I pretty much have all the earlier stuff. The recommended track would probably be Hitchin' a Ride. Although that one has Time of Your Life too. Then we have Warning, which is pretty much underrated. I would recommend Minority or Warning. And then we have Green Day, American Idiot. Great 2000s rock album. My favorite track would probably be Wake Me Up When September Ends, or Holiday. And then we get to Uno. The trilogy was okay. Skip those. And I have a vinyl copy of Revolution Radio, which I'll get to whenever I'm done with this whole CD thing. Next album I have is Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction. Great classic 80s album. My recommended track would probably be Out to Get Me or Welcome to the Jungle. And then we have Use Your Illusion 1. My recommended track would probably be either the Paul McCartney cover of Live or Let Die or November Rain. And then we get to my Hellstorm stuff, which is the self-titled album, which I would recommend. Familiar Taste of Poison. The Strange Case of. I'd recommend I Miss the Misery, because that's the song that got me into them. And then Into the Wildlife, which is probably my least favorite by them so far. But still a good album. Sick Individual. Kind of sounds like Pink, to be honest with you. But it's still a good song. Then I got this... my parents went to a bar to go see some bands play. And they got this demo from a band called Harlow. They're from Detroit. Pretty good. Look them up. The song that they had wasn't on this one. So... Then we have Hell Yeah with Blood for Blood. This is definitely a lot better than their earlier work, so I definitely recommend it. My favorite song would probably be Moth or Black December, which is the closing track of this album. Then we have Hinder with All American Nightmare. It's okay. Skip it. If I had to choose, probably either title track or Everyone's Wrong, or Everybody's Wrong, whatever it's called. And the last one I have is Hoobastank. This is their self-titled album. Track I'd recommend is probably Running Away. So that's the end of part 3. Stick around for part 4.